So the truth is that you have been trying to smash. I have the proof.
She said she got the proof. This is my first time actually reading the text, and I just feel like this is beneath.
Instead of knocking, treachery bursts into the room. Consider Rasheeda and Jasmine, two women who are connected by a single male. Standing face to face in a tense room, Kirk Frost is shaking the foundation of everything you think is true. Jasmine reveals something startling. Her mind is racing to make connections as she first glances at Jasmine. Rasheeda's sense of loyalty and trust was directly hit by Kirk Frost's covert relationship with Jasmine and the unexpected claim of the child. She wants answers and anything to make sense of the chaos that had suddenly exploded into her life. And the tension increased as Jasmine refused to back down and insisted on her side of the story. Kirk Frost is acting as though he is Rasheeda's father and I have a baby. Never one to back down. The narrative had to be heard. Without recoiling, Jasmine retaliated against Rasheeda's blazing stare, pointing out that Kirk Frost made his own choices and that he was the one who was responsible. She had her own story to tell and felt rash enough to need to hear it. They reached this position because someone took action, and I didn't force him to do anything. The atmosphere was heated, with each word fueling the emotional flames. Rasheeda shot back, "You knew what you were getting into, and you decided to participate." Jasmine said, "If you're mad, be mad at him. He came to me and made the promises, so you believe you're innocent." Rasheeda refused to allow a sign to alter the course of events, since the two ladies who were victims of Kirk Frost each used their own strategies to hold onto their positions. Rasheeda's anger was fueled by Kirk Frost's repeated humiliations of her in public, but it was eventually overcome by betrayal and Jasmine's defiance. Jasmine insisted that Kirk Frost had pursued her and made her feel like more than a supporting character. Rasheeda lost her passion and slapped Jasmine hard. The sound echoed throughout the room, and Jasmine not only staggered back in shock, but also refused to back down as Rasheeda's rage started to boil over the betrayal and hit too deeply.
That's what that says. And now you going back on your word after I signed the release form for Canada. I take you back to court. Don't play with me. You didn't ask me to cash out, extra money towards the rent. I just did it out of the kindness of my heart because I knew you were behind trying to help you. That wasn't no extra money. That was what you're supposed to be giving me anyway, since we agreed to whatever the number.
When Kirk entered the chaos and aftermath of the altercation, Rash should have assumed that things couldn't get any worse. But he was utterly wrong to think that he could improve them by getting more attention. Rasheeda became frustrated and went to him, saying, "Explain this, Kirk." She gestured to Jasmine, asking how we got to this point. Kirk's attempts to justify himself again failed, and his justifications were fabricated and hollow. Said something about being in a tough situation or feeling misunderstood, but it didn't make Rasheeda any less upset or depressed. This wasn't just another mistake. Rather, it was a betrayal that made her question everything about their relationship. When she looked at Kirk, she saw not just a man who made mistakes, but also a partner who had continuously disregarded their marriage, so her heartbreak wasn't just. Their whole family was impacted, including their kids, who were now subject to the consequences of Kirk's choices. Longtime Love and Hip Hop Atlanta fans would remember the full DNA test drama when Kirk fathered a child with a different woman, forcing Rasheeda to face his adultery in front of others. This wasn't the first time Kirk had dragged their marriage into disarray, and flashbacks hit her like a terrible movie reel. Millions of individuals begged for forgiveness, but Rasheeda wouldn't have it. She said, "This isn't about forgiveness anymore. It's about respect, which you obviously don't have for me or this family." This betrayal was only the latest in a long line of tragedies that Kay tried to save.
Messages. Is that what we got going on? Because the fact that I'm even sitting here, even listening to this, is beneath me. And I'm sick and tired of this. Straight up. What?
Everything Kirk had done over the years, including the entire paternity drama from season 3 of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, hit Rasheeda like a ton of bricks after their big blow-up. Kirk had a long history of betrayal, which had gradually damaged her trust. The public catastrophe that ensued from Kirk conceiving a child with someone else while they were married was one of the show's primary plot points. By focusing on their family and the things they had built together, Rasheeda tried to ease the grief, but when the DNA test confirmed the suspicions, she had to confront the reality of his adultery in front of cameras and realize that forgiveness has repercussions. When she stood in the aftermath of yet another betrayal, she couldn't help but wonder if it was time to end the relationship permanently. The decision weighed heavily on her. Was it worth continuing a relationship that caused her so much pain, or was it time to move on and prioritize her own happiness? She had been juggling being a mother, wife, and businesswoman while dealing with all the public drama. Kirk had to cope with more than just an irate wife once things had settled down, and he slowly started to realize that he might have gone too far this time. Rasheeda's reaction was one of sadness rather than wrath, and it was clear that she was done because he could hear it in her voice and see it in her eyes. As word spread, she wasn't just talking about leaving, she was actually thinking about it. Supporters gathered around Rasheeda to encourage her and call out Kirk for his actions, and her posts were flooded with comments telling her to leave, reminding her of her value, and reminding her that she deserves better. Meanwhile, Kirk faced criticism for his repeated mistakes, and rumors of a divorce were spreading. Meanwhile, Rasheeda, who was known for her grace and strength, was now getting encouragement from friends and fans, and Kirk felt very alone as the realization. The idea that he would lose not only his wife, but all they had built together started to weigh heavily on him. Fans and friends urged Rasheeda to prioritize herself, and the conversation shifted from whether they would survive to whether Rasheeda was at last prepared to go on in spite of his transgressions. Rasheeda was his rock, and now he had to deal with the possibility that she might decide to leave, leaving him to deal with the fallout alone. As Rasheeda considered her options, one thing was clear: this was not just about Kirk anymore. It was also about her future, her family, and her worth as a person. She had fought for their marriage on several occasions, but now she had to determine whether it was still worthwhile.
Let me talk to you, Jen.
Whatever.
So what's the deal?
Honestly, let me say this. Me and you haven't really had any type of communication like this ever before. So like maybe me and you need to open up a communication line instead of me and him. Maybe it will be better that way.
You just told me my husband trying to you, and then you telling me you want to open up a communication line with me? I mean, are you kidding me?
Rasheeda had been trying for years to mend her relationship with Kirk, but after the most recent betrayal, there was nothing left to save them. Their final conversation was solemn and quiet, and it weighed heavily on all the hurt they had experienced. Rasheeda looked straight ahead as she spoke one last time, her words hitting hard. "I deserve better." She spoke calmly and confidently with Amber, letting her know that she had finally reached her breaking point. It wasn't about regret or retaliation. Rather, it was just the truth. Kirk, feeling broken and desperate, begged her to forgive him, but his words were meaningless. He wanted her to stay and give him another chance, but the trust had been lost, and no amount of apology could make up for it. The chapter of her marriage was closed, and fans are wondering what this unstoppable woman will do next as she closes her chapter and gets ready to embark on a new period of self-discovery, strength, and independence. This time, Brass should have turned and left without looking back because she was doing it for herself, not for Kirk or their family, and not for anybody else. She took a deep breath after realizing her value and that there was no turning back. Rasa is a strong lady, but even strong women have their breaking point, according to a statement made by someone. It's time for her to prioritize herself because Kirk has been treating her disrespectfully for years. She deserves so much better. "I'm proud of Rasheeda for finally leaving and staying," another person remarked. In a toxic relationship for the sake of family is so draining, and she's setting an example for a lot of people watching. A third fan added that Kirk truly believed he could keep playing rashly that and she never leaves. This should be a wake-up call for him, but honestly, I hope she doesn't look back. Fans are watching to see if Rasheeda will focus on her career, her family, or perhaps even start an exciting new chapter now that her marriage is over. One thing is clear, she has always been a powerhouse, and she's more determined than ever to keep moving forward. The possibilities are endless, and her undeniable strength will undoubtedly guide her whether she takes advantage of this moment to skyrocket her career, profession, or decides to put her children first, giving her family newfound stability and tranquility. I would like to know what you think about Rasheeda's choice. Was it the right one to finally confront Kirk? Not just about her, but about empowering others to recognize their worth and fight for what they deserve. It's about demonstrating that letting go for your happiness and well-being is not only okay, but necessary. Rasheeda is an inspiration, and her brave decision to put herself first and leave what wasn't working sends a powerful message to anyone stuck in a toxic relationship.